ReconAthlete.com podcast is brought to you by Lawnman ATX and Kreitz Market. All right, ReconAthlete.com podcast episode number 28. Chris Sanchez, Zach Lucero, Paul Rodriguez in the house.
Yep.
Klein Collins 28, Vandergrift 14. We're going to start off with that. So we're going to go over our area high school football playoffs results, and then we'll get into the NFL. But it was the end of the line for the Vandergrift Vipers last night. Zach, your thoughts about the game?
I mean, it just gets to a point in the playoffs where you come up against a team that's just better.
Yeah.
Physically, it's hard to match up. I mean, I gave this analogy the other day. When you play someone in Madden and your team is just way better than their team,
yeah,
you could try to pass it around and do as much as you want for the enjoyment of you. But when it comes down to it, just run the ball, get your linemen in space, and if they're just better, there's nothing the other team can do about it. When it comes to size and stuff, I mean, we have guys that can tackle in space, but if you don't get that space, then something you can do about it. And credit to Klein Collins. I mean, they had a game plan, and Vandergrift knew their game plan. They were going to run the ball, and still couldn't stop it. I mean, there's a couple guys on that team that are going to be all state. Like that running back is legit. That quarterback on all the recruiting sites is getting recruited as a defensive end.
The quarterback
playing quarterback, yeah.
Wow.
Dude was like 6'4", 6'5", like 240.
Yeah,
dude was heavy, man. And he'd get going downhill a lot like the Bridgeland quarterback. And it's just tough to stop. I mean, even when they were getting tackled behind the line or tackled for a short gain, I mean, their linemen are five yards blocking downfield. I mean, you can just see, especially with the running backs that they had at Klein Collins, which is kind of known for having really good running backs at school. The amount of patience they have, they just kind of wait for a second to get there, for their linemen to get that initial push that they were getting every play, and just picking and finding the holes after that. So, I mean, in the line for Vandergrift, I mean, it's a good run, especially with all the injuries and stuff they had. A very young team this year. Credit to Coach Sanders. 10 years at Vandergrift, 100 wins. Second undefeated regular season in a row, 2 rounds deep in the playoffs, got to host the very first second round playoff game. So I mean, that's a lot of firsts for that school, a lot of milestones, and I'm excited for next year.
Yeah, you talked about Colby Powers, who is the quarterback for Klein Collins. He only threw the ball 6 times. 52 rushes for Klein Collins, 341 yards, 15 carries for Vandergrift for a total of 12 yards. Yeah. I mean, that's just totally taking away, the number one attack for Vandergrift, which is on the ground, made them a one-dimensional team. And when you do that, you're going to win football games. And still, I mean, they give up a lot of points, but kind of a bend but don't really break. I mean, 28 points, that's not a whole lot for a team like Klein Collins.
And I think looking at the final, 28-14, it honestly doesn't look that bad.
Yeah.
But just being at the game, it never really felt that close. But kind of reflecting back on the game last night, I mean, Vandergrift had 3 turnovers. Klein Collins had none. So if you take away those turnovers, I mean, already 28-14. I mean, maybe it could have been a bit closer if they would have played a cleaner game, which is kind of the MO for Vandergrift, is just playing clean and not making mistakes. And they did have some mistakes in this game. So I mean, hey, you never know. But this Klein Collins team is going to be good, especially since Longview got upset last night against Dallas Jesuit. I mean, I think it's going to be some big time running backs in that game. Emma Smith's son's the running back at Dallas Jesuit, and they got 2-headed monster, 3-headed monster if you count the quarterback for Klein Collins. It's going to be a fun game to watch. I think Friday at McLean.
All right, so man, I didn't know that. I didn't even see Longview got upset.
Yeah, I was kind of monitoring that last night.
So I mean, Dallas Jesuit, they are known actually for their rugby. They got a good rugby program. So
Chris with the insight on the rugby.
Hey, bro, I'm just saying. Shout out to BJ.
I was waiting for that one.
But that can be related to football. I mean, you got a good rugby program. I mean, so does like Travis and Westlake. Both of those programs have good rugby programs. So into the line for Vandergrift last night, 28-14 losers to Klein Collins. The score a little bit closer than the actual game was. I'm going to assume 14 points for Vandergrift there in the fourth quarter, but not a whole lot in the first 3 quarters. Paul, any thoughts about Vandegrift?
I just think the Vipers had a great season, and just sometimes I was kind of thinking about this on the ride home. Is you can be the most disciplined and technical team, but when you run into a team who's just as technical and sound, but they just got a little bit better talent, it's a lot to overcome. But shout out to the Vipers with a great season. Coach Sanders does a great job for Vandegrift, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have another district title next year, an undefeated regular season.
Yeah, we
for
got
the Vipers.
Yeah, we've got for February, we're going to have the redistricting. And before we move on, Zach, talk about the Vipers in 2020.
No, definitely want to shout some names. Blake Youngblood had a big touchdown in this game. He really came alive in the latter half of the season once teams started keying on Trey Mongozi. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a stud next year along with Taylor Dumar. They're going to have to find a third guy to step up on that receiving core. Ryan Back. This wasn't the team that Vandegrift had last year. They weren't really blowing teams out this year, so we didn't get too many meaningful snaps at quarterback. But he's been around the program for a long time. He has a close relationship with Drew Dawson, so he'll be taking over at quarterback. And along the offensive line, they've had so many injuries and had to shift so many guys in and out that a lot of the depth has gotten meaningful snaps in the season. Throughout the season, the injuries were from day one. So I think the offensive line, they lose some key guys, but they have a lot of experience coming back. Defensive line, a lot of guys coming back as well. And then the secondary, Caleb Lewis is going to be big time. Logan Arnold, who led the team in pass breakups and interceptions, he's coming back at corner. And then everyone that carried the ball, excluding Drew Dawson, everyone that carried the ball this year for Vandegrift is coming back. So that running game is going to be something to watch.
All right, so Vandegrift Vipers ended the season at 11-1. Of course, they were 8-0 in district in the 13-6A. So shout out to Vandegrift, and we'll hopefully see Zach on the sidelines next year. I know his contract's up though, so we'll see.
I'm gonna have to renegotiate. Gotta let my people talk to their people.
There you go.
You got a new agent or what? Do you need one?
No, I've been rocking with the same agent since I signed out of college. So
UIW.
Yeah. But hey, we talked about that Dallas Jesuit upset. Did y'all see that Allen upset?
The Rockdale.
Yeah,
Rockwall. I'm sorry,
Rockwall.
Yeah,
that's big time, man.
That receiver, Jax, man, that dude,
unstoppable.
11, that dude was catching balls with one hand just coming across the middle, he's sticking that paw out.
He's going to Ohio State too.
Yeah,
bro, they just reload.
Shoot, wouldn't you?
True.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah. Ohio State, Penn State playing right now as we record this, but yeah, that was a huge win for Rockwall. Allen and Longview going out on the same night in the second round of the playoffs. And Dallas area, they're loaded right now. All right, last night Paul went down San Antonio way, downtown San Antonio. You was down there, Paul. You said you mentioned before you were like, man, we were downtown.
Yeah, we were downtown Brooklyn Avenue and Camden, man. We were probably, if anybody knows where San Antonio is, wherever they hold Fiesta, there's a huge parade that goes down.
I think a lot of people know where San Antonio is.
The downtown area, Zachary.
They have a wall there.
There's a Broadway and Brooklyn Avenue. There's a huge junction there. Lots of traffic going down, but that's where Central Catholic High School is located, named after Bob Benson, class of '66, is a stadium. Me and my dad got a chance to go down there. Papa Ronio got a chance to visit with us early this morning, and it gave us thoughts about the game.
Good morning, son. Thanks for having me on again. Yes, sir. Last night was a heck of a game. Boy, howdy, I'll tell you. Really enjoyed driving down to downtown San Antonio to watch Flatonia versus Pryor. Fantastic game. I thought the Flatonia Bulldogs did an excellent job on offense. Their discipline showed last night. They had the game pretty much under control for the first half. Then Pryor made their adjustment by changing quarterbacks, and that to me changed the second half game quite a bit for Flatonia. They had to make their adjustments, and Pryor had their surge, but just some key defensive plays on Flatonia's part, I think, held them in the winner's column for last night. There were several key tackles. Terry Becker had just one key tackle. If he hadn't made it, I think they'd have run up the middle there for significant yardage, and that seemed to slow down Pryor's momentum. Then there was the interception, I think, in the third quarter. and there were several, I think what we refer to as PBUs, pass breakups, by the defensive cornerbacks of Flatonia that I think really, really helped them overcome that surge. So I was real proud of these guys. They're excellent kids, and one of the, I guess, non-play events that I thought was significant was after the game, the second half quarterback was on the sideline and obviously very emotional because they didn't win. And these kids from Flatonia, the Flatonia players, several of them went over to him to say good game, and that was first class. That was first class by Flatonia. I was real proud of those young men. And there's several of them in the state. You don't hear too much about them, but they're still there. So next up, I think, is Bremont. I don't know really enough about Bremont to talk about him, but we're going to play the game. That's why we're going to play it and see what happens against Bremont.
Papa Romeo, thank you very much for your thoughts in the recap of the game last night. Flatonia big winners, 35-24 over La Pryor. We appreciate your recap, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Flatonia getting that big win. A tremendous game last night. It was a war in San Antonio. Downtown was rocking, and we were great to be there. But DeCorey Willis had a huge game. He had 30-yard breaking touchdown run for the Flatonia Bulldogs. La Pryor, though, man, I got to shout out this young man. 6'4", 190, quarterback/receiver, Juan Valdez. The dude can leap. The dude can throw. He's got some adequate speed for the position. But the Flatonia Bulldogs controlled this game. It was a defensive matchup primarily in the first half. They started to pull away towards the end of the second quarter, led a big win, 29-16 going into the second half. If it wasn't for the defense, I mean, they had 3 picks on the night, 1 fumble recovery, and a pick 6 on top of it. I wanted to shout out Aiden Gonzalez. That guy had a huge play in the first half. He had a PBU that broke up a pass that was a post over the middle. If he doesn't make that PBU, the game blows up in the favor of La Pryor. I just want to give him a shout out. Also, there was another young man. This guy has shown love to Recon Athlete. Every time I go to the game, he walks up, has his hand out, shakes my hand firmly, and gives us a lot of praise for coming out and cover them. So I just wanted to shout out Ricky Gonzalez. Ricky Oliveras. Thank you very much for doing that. And Cam Becker. Cam Becker's 5'11", 245. He's their greatest threat on the defensive and offensive line. Well, La Pryor had 2 big hosses. One was 6'5", 300 pounds. The other was 6'3", 290. One played offense, one played defense. Cam Becker plays Iron Man football. Mm-hmm. They assigned their best offensive line and defensive line to stymie Cam Becker. Well, he let that 6'3", 290 defensive line go home limping after the game. So I just wanted to shout out a huge Iron Man football game for Cam Becker. Thank you very much. Of course, Lawman ATX was very accommodating at the field last night, so we're grateful for them. Breaking news. Looks like we're the only one on ReconAthlete.com to post this. Flatonia versus Bremont Friday night, November 29th at 7 p.m. at Rockdale Tiger Stadium. Check out the details on Twitter and also ReconAthlete.com to attend the venue. It's going to be a great matchup. Flatonia, number 6 in the state, 2A Division II. If they get past this win, they'll meet the number 1 team in 2A Division II in Fall City in the regional round of the Texas Football Championship.
All right, so Flatonia with the big win last night. Shout out to the Bulldogs. All right, let's get back into the Austin area. Westlake and San Antonio Brennan. That game last night actually on KNVA. Westlake 24, San Antonio Brennan 6. Westlake Chaparrals now going to go on to play Weslaco East next Friday night, 7 o'clock at San Antonio's Alamo Stadium on that taco tour, Zach.
Yeah, I mean Westlake just flying through, getting some little tacos here, tacos there, tacos everywhere. Man, they just. I mean, it must be nice.
Yeah. So Westlake with 346 total yards, as opposed to San Antonio Brennan's 203. Kirkland Michaud, the lone quarterback to play last night, or at least throw a pass, 12 of 19, had 148 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 5 attempts for 50 yards. The 6'5", 220-pound QB is, he's the guy now. I know during the season, Coach Dodge played 3 quarterbacks for, I would say, 8 or 9 games. I mean, it was a long time before Kirkland Michaud had he settled on him. But Kirkland, looks like he's the guy now. Jackson Coker had a couple of runs. Ryan Lindley. I got a shout out to Zane Miners. This kid came out last night. They gave him the ball 18 times, 131 yards. Real shifty back, the kind that can hide behind that big Westlake offensive line and, make a couple of guys miss and, break one deep. Of course, Westlake with the great receiving core led by Mason Mangum, Ryan Lindley, and then the freshman, Jaden Greathouse. I mean, they got some young guys that are going out there and making some plays. Jaden Greathouse had 3 catches for 32 yards, but
he's a freshman.
He's a freshman, but he is a kid that you can't forget about. And Westlake likes to they like to put him out on an island, by himself because he's a big kid, big 14-year-old freshman.
Yeah, don't worry about this number 9 over here, just hanging out on the edge of the side there.
Yeah, they like to put him out there solo and just kind of throw the ball up, and it's there's a big, great future ahead for Jaden Greathouse. But Westlake does what Westlake does, play defense. They only gave up, 1 touchdown at the end of the game. Really didn't matter. I know the defense was probably looking forward to getting a shutout, but it was probably some backups in there at that point. And I mean, 1 touchdown really didn't mean a whole lot, Zach.
Man, Westlake's over here trying to get a shutout, and Vandergrift's playing Klein Collins. Westlake's trying to get a shutout, and Houston's playing Shadow Creek, man. Come on.
Y'all better do some petitioning with that realignment. Get in another region.
Put some respect on Coach Sanders' name, man.
Get in another region. That's all I got to say.
This dude got 100 wins.
Are you trying to say San Antonio Brendan ain't that good?
I'm trying to say San Antonio Brendan ain't that good.
Hey, I bet you they got some bomb tacos, though.
Hey, they probably okay, we're good. We can say San Antonio Brendan probably not on the level as Klein Collins.
Probably not.
Probably not. All right, so Westlake moving on. They were on KMVA last night, like I said, so shout out to KMVA. KBVO, was it KBVO? Or no, KBVO had Lake Travis.
Yeah, like one and the same.
Yeah, no, I can't remember which one was which.
They were on TV.
They were both on TV last night. I actually stayed in because I was like, I'm going to watch both these games, which I did. Lake Travis 49, San Antonio Madison 21. Lake Travis doing what Lake Travis does, beating up on that San Antonio team. They win convincingly last night. The West kids, the West brothers in the backfield, Weston Stevens and Wesley Irwin did their thing in the backfield for Lake Travis. Nate Yarnell, quarterback that stepped in for an injured Hudson Card. He looks great, man. He's actually doing some pretty good things with his feet as well. Zach?
I think they're going to continue to get better too. I mean, if you think about it in a schematic point of view, I mean, all year, all offseason, they were planning to have Hudson Card, this dual threat, speed kind of quarterback, as their guy, and that was the game plan. Then you all of a sudden have to try to cater it to Nate Yarnell, who doesn't have he's not the athlete that Hudson Card is, but you could argue that he's a better passer of the ball. So you're really having to flip your game plan. So they're going to continue to get better as the season goes on. So I think they're going to be a scary team to run into in the playoffs because of that reason. Because I mean, if you watch film, you can't watch film from during the season because this guy wasn't the guy. You can't watch film from the other playoff games because they're going to keep implementing new stuff, especially with that Lake Travis offense. So though, I mean, they're going to be a scary team going forward.
Yeah, and Yarnell was 19 of 25 last night, 76% passer completion, and 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I did see the one pick. He kind of tried to force it a little bit. And the one thing that I think that Yarnell is doing right now, he might getting a little bit more comfortable with is running the football. They're running a little bit of RPO, and he's taking it, he's tucking it and running a little bit. Now he runs straight to the sideline. He ain't trying to take no hits, but that's smart. I mean, he's a smart kid. He's 6'6", doesn't have a whole lot of meat on him, but when he sits back there and he can sling it, man, he's a very accurate passer. So, I mean, I think, you don't want to lose your number one quarterback in Hudson Card, obviously. But I think Nate Yarnell, like you said, Zach, you have to kind of change your game plan a little bit. But I think with the way he can, run, just enough to keep that defense honest on the other side of the ball. Paul?
Lake Travis does what Lake Travis does, and they develop quarterbacks. And, we're obviously seeing the fruits of their labors from the NFL to college to the high school level with backups. But gosh, dog, man, I mean, if you really need 4 or 5 yards, Yarnell's all you got to do is fall forward, and he'll have your yardage there for you.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, the rushing attack for Lake Travis was big last night. Weston Stevens with 20 carries, 165 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Wesley Irwin had 5 carries for 32 yards. At the end of the game, they had a couple of guys come in, Gary Gordon and Watson Cusick. Gary had a couple of attempts for 8 yards and got into the end zone at the end of there. So I think Coach Carter is just kind of bringing up some guys, trying to see who can help me out with this rushing attack, because I think they get that rushing attack going. That's going to help set up Nate Yarnell with the passing game. So Lake Travis, they're going to be playing also at San Antonio's Alamo Stadium next Friday, 1:00. Lake Travis versus Weslaco. They're going to get the barbacoa tacos. Westlake, you think they're going to go with what kind
Taco
of tacos?
Cabana.
Nah, man. Do you think so?
They're not even going to know how to order if they go to a taco truck.
They go to Taquerido and it'd be like, what is buche? So Lake Travis and Westlake.
They say, y'all got kombucha? That's what they're going to say.
I thought you were going to say birre. I was like, birre?
Lake Travis and Westlake. They're both playing at San Antonio's Alamo Stadium. And
Y'all going to go?
I don't know.
I'm going to be in Rockdale.
You're going to Rockdale.
Yeah.
Cedar Park. It kind of depends. If Cedar Park
And Maynard.
and Maynard play, I might have to go to that.
We haven't
game.
gotten there yet, but
Yeah. Cedar Park's playing this afternoon. So if Cedar Park wins, I might have to go to that game. I do want to go see Maynard. We'll talk about Maynard in a little bit. But you guys mentioned before we came on air, Lake Travis and Westlake both playing in San Antonio's Alamo Stadium on the same day. And Paul, you were like, man, these kids are probably going to be, talking trash to each other. Zach, you had a different take on that. What's your take on?
Well, I think first of all, the amount of preparation and planning that go into these things for these coaches and these programs, they're going to have very, very, very little interaction. The only time they're going to be around each other is because as soon as that game ends, the other team is probably going to try to take the field to start warming up. That's going to be the only interaction that these two teams have with each other. But we were talking about it. Paul said that they're going to be talking trash and blah, blah, blah. And I think in y'all's day, and then like even just a few years ago, that would have been the case. But I think now with the amount of camps that kids go to, the amount of different speed and conditioning trainers and quarterback coaches and footwork coaches and stuff, a lot of these kids are friends. A lot of these kids go to the same trainers, play on the same AAU basketball team, play on the club lacrosse team together, play on like go to the same coaches and go to the same camps and things like that. That I don't think that's really the case anymore. I mean, when I was in high school and when Twitter was first like getting really, really popping, I mean, I don't think Snoop can attest to this if he was here. Players used to at each other on Twitter and say, "Yo, I'm gonna lock you down. You're trash."
Yeah,
and someone else would say blah blah blah, and then someone would text you be like, "Yo, look, so and so are going at it on Twitter."
Yeah.
And now, like, people, if you look at the fan stand comments, like, people have, like, burner accounts to say stuff and things like that because they want to save face, because at the end of the day, those are their friends on the other team.
Yeah.
So they want to talk trash because they feel like it's the right thing to do, but in reality, they're friends with each other. So I think that how much of a mainstay that social media is now and part of everyday life it is, these kids just have way, way more interaction with each other that it gets to just kind of a friendly level, and as opposed to more of like a smack talk type thing.
And that was a good breakdown for what Zach had broken down, because it was like, in my mind, if I saw, a rival team, like for me, it was San Marcos. Mm-hmm. If we all crossed paths, like there was going to be some words exchanged, because back in our day,
because the last time you seen him was on the football field.
Exactly. And so it's different now. And that's kind of what the question I was proposing to you is, like, after hearing, the comments that we had before the podcast, was like, has social media kind of taken out a little bit of the competitiveness? And I was trying to be a little bit more introspective in the sense that, well, maybe it hasn't taken away the competitiveness, but maybe it's taken a little bit more of maybe the jealousy. Like maybe you're jealous of that player, or maybe you think that player isn't as good as you, so you're going to, talk a little trash to maybe get in his head a little bit. But these kids, I think, are so disciplined now. They have, like you said, they're going to so many camps. They're probably family friends with each other a lot of times, and it's just an evolution, especially with social media, like you said, how in your day it was a little bit more volatile. But for now, these kids are so disciplined, they're well coached, they're well skilled, that it's all about producing a product on the field and being productive, and they want to win. I don't think that's lacking competitiveness there, but I think at the end of the day, they have a lot of respect for each other because they know the sacrifices they're putting in back and forth.
And I think another thing that we could attest this to is kids are very, very conscious of the next level.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, very.
I mean, you'll see kids. I mean, like in the college level, you'll see kids sit out seasons because they're trying to get to the NFL.
Right.
You'll see kids suffer injuries. The OBJ guy, for instance, suffer injuries in the middle of the season and say, "Look, like I have something after this." Mm-hmm. Whereas, and I'm not saying that it's like giving up on your team, but I'm saying like whereas longer ago, like in y'all's day, or even when I was in high school, these kids, like that's all there was. They weren't even thinking about the next level because they had to ball out in high school if they wanted to get noticed because there wasn't so many camps and things like that. Now it doesn't really matter how good you are in high school or how good your team is. If your team is trash and you don't really perform, there's no scouts there anyways. Right. The scouts are waiting until you go to the Nike Spark camp to see you. The coaches are waiting until you go to Elite 11 or whatever to see you. They could care less. The only time they see you play in high school was when they watch your highlights.
Yeah,
that's it.
And I think you saw that really with the last Bosa kid that came out, who's having a tremendous year in the NFL with the 49ers, how he sat out the rest of his career at OSU because everybody, and especially I think it's because like my generation and older, like the guys were like, how could you quit on your team? He didn't quit on his team. I think that this younger generation has a better understanding of like, hey, he was protecting his financial future, and they all understand that, and they probably would have made the same choice. And
I think you see that with the narrative of these things now is when guys first did it, when Leonard Fournette did it, or guys did it earlier in college football, everyone was like, "Oh, you're giving up on your team. You're giving up on your team." And now when someone does it, it's like, "Yeah, go get your bag, bro. Like I'm for it. You go make your money. Like I'm with you." And I think it's just the narrative of things are really changing like that.
Yeah, and I think that's something that has changed as well as, not only the interaction in the social media, but like you guys said, they're more conscious of the next level, and they're not going to go out there and football is such a violent game, and we know that at any point your career might be ended. So
right, and they're not going to go on Twitter and air somebody out because coaches are going to see that.
Right,
they're not. If the person
are going to see that,
the person that they're going back and forth with all game long. After the game is over, they're not going to say, "Yeah, that's what I thought." We beat you. Like in the kid's face, they're going to shake the kid's hand and say, "Hey, I'll see you at the camp next weekend."
Yeah, and they're going to do a jersey swap
and take a picture together. Yeah, for Instagram.
That is dope though. Seeing that at the high school level, I'm just saying that for me, that's dope.
They have to give the jerseys right back.
Yes, they do. But it's a great photo op. It's great. It's great marketing because it helps them go to the next level, and it tells those coaches, those recruiters, they're team guys, they're team players, and they have a understanding and respect level for their opponent. That's what I see.
In my opinion, the jersey swap, I hate the jersey swap in high school. I really hate it because you have to give it back.
You do.
That's why. I remember when I first started, when I was my first varsity game in high school, I got real mad and threw my helmet in a baseball game after I like struck out or did something stupid, and I had to go pick it up before I went back to the dugout.
Yeah,
so I was like, this is stupid. Like it's not cool because I have to go get it. It's not cool when you switch jerseys because you have to give it right back.
Well,
but the photo lasts forever though.
Yeah, it's a cool photo.
And I think if you want to show how much a part of your team you are, leave your jersey on and take your picture with the dude that has his jersey on. Instead of saying, because you're kind of saying like I'm more into you than I am into my team. Like, give me your jersey. I want to rep you.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying I'm repping my team, but I'm taking the picture with you and you're repping your team.
But isn't that the age of being selfless this year? Like, I mean, we were talking about how these kids all have respect for each other. I think that's a sign of them being selfless and showing them it's like, hey, I can be a team player, but I also give respect, and that's what I see from.
But what would you prefer? That, or would you prefer you're putting on for your team?
I mean, my team. I mean, it's just a different time, I guess. Like there is no way. I mean, I'm a little bit older than Paul. Me and Paul are pretty much peers. Like I'm 4 or 5 years older than you. Back in mid '90s, late '90s, we would never have anything nice to say to the other team. I mean, even in baseball, like our coach was like if we were seen talking to the other guy, we get in trouble.
But like if you
don't ever talk to the other team ever. Don't ever say anything.
If you had
nice.
a boy on the other team and y'all were going to take a picture after the game, would you ever think in your mind to be like, yo, I want to wear your jersey?
I would never take the photo to begin with.
Yeah, probably not.
But you know what I'm saying though? Like if you did, you would never be like, oh, I want to wear your Leander jersey.
But don't you see this is what they see at the NFL and they're just replicating? Because that's
that is what it is. But in the NFL, because player A is trying to have a collection.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's a fad. It'll probably pass. We'll see what happens.
All right,
it's not going to pass. More kids are going to do it because it gets a lot of likes.
If it started happening at Pop Warner, then I'll agree with you.
Anything for the clout, as they say.
True.
That's that new song.
Hey, we're gonna get that on the. We'll get that on the intro.
That sounds old. That's not a new song.
Is it a song?
Yeah,
new song. It's not a new song.
It's not new.
It's not. Well, I thought we were gonna get on the intro. That's what I'm saying.
Why don't you cut it and send it to Chris to put on the intro?
Because I don't have the Adobe Premiere.
You could download the file.
I don't have that money, man. I'm broke.
No, you could download the audio file.
I'm waiting for you to send me my paycheck so I can buy the audio file.
No, you can go to YouTube to MP3 converter, download the file, and send it to Chris in an email and say, hey, here's the song I want you to put for the intro.
I respect federal copyright law.
Shadow Creek 63, Hutto 14. There goes my Hutto Hippos being state champs, guys.
Yeah.
What'd I tell y'all? Shadow Creek.
Yeah, dude.
They real.
Dude.
They real.
Yeah.
If y'all could have watched that game, because I've seen them play, and there's so much speed.
Yeah.
Man. Their defensive backs, they're just speed. Their jerseys are kind of ugly, but they're just speed.
369 total yards. Let's see. 249 for Hutto. Why is Brock Bueno's name on here? Did he play?
I don't know.
Anybody? I'm gonna have to check that out. Kyron Drones for the Shadow Creek Sharks, 4 touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions. Kelvin Brown for Shadow Creek, 15 attempts, 178 yards. Grayson Doggett threw the ball 30 times for the Hippos, 20 completions, 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. Makai Kimball, 22 attempts for 57 yards. Man, this Shadow Creek defense really did a number on the Hutto offense. But the Hutto Hippos, they still got a lot of kids that are coming back next year. I think they're kind of in the same boat as Vandergrift, where they've got a lot of underclassmen, and they're going to shine in 2020. They might end up going 6A. I think that's where they're headed. So that's going to be, that's going to be a transition that they're going to have to get used to going up to that 6A level, because a lot of times people don't realize that the difference between 5A and 6A is such a huge jump. But it really is once you get to that level of competition. So
especially when you get into the playoffs.
Oh, that's where you see it. So, and we saw it here at Shadow Creek. They're probably going to go to the state championship again. 63-14 winners over Hutto. Shout out to my Hutto Hippos. I know I called them state champs back in week 2, but they had a lot of injuries.
Might have been a bit premature.
Might have been. That's all right.
Saying that.
Manor 45, Porter 6. Manor Mustangs.
Fasty fast.
Hey.
I sent that to Chooks on Twitter. I was like, bro, fasty fast.
Chooks or Shay? Shay.
No, I sent to his dad.
Chooks. Okay.
Yeah, I sent to his dad.
Shay Iwabuko. Shout out Taj Brooks. Shout out Levante Bedford and 3-Header Monster. Man, Manor Mustangs. They're moving on. They're going to take on the winner of Cedar Park and Friendswood. Could have a Manor Cedar Park rematch from, what was that, 2012?
It's almost like a Central Texas tradition,
right?
For these two teams to play in the playoffs, man. And we've probably been the foremost media outlet for Manor football this year. As soon as they had such a slow start early, and we were like, man, this team has the athletes that it just needs one thing to click.
A lot of people,
and they'll turn the season around. And sure enough, started picking up some wins in district, and they just took off, man. And this team has. We talked about it a little bit with the Vandergrift losses. You run into a team that just has superior athletes, especially now that you're game planning week by week for teams. Mm-hmm. You can't schematically put something together to completely shut down a team. And because you're pretty much saying like, all right, guys, go tackle the ball, go run, catch, get into the end zone. And if Maynard has the athletes to keep up with teams like that, then they're going to be hard to stop.
And when they have all 3 of their backs going, like when I went to see them play against Georgetown, they only had Taj Brooks. I don't know if Shea and Levante had some kind of issues, injury or whatever, but Taj was the only one. So they didn't really have like that thunder lightning kind of thing going on. But, last night they had all three going, and obviously the defense did a number. Porter was 9-1 or 9-2. I think they were 9-1 on the season. So it's not like this team just, came out of nowhere, in the playoffs. I mean, this is a good football team, obviously. I haven't seen them play, but you're not 9-1 for no reason.
I thought they were going to easily match up with Maynard Speed, but last night, looking at that three-headed monster, they were just finally getting everything in line. And if they're hitting their stride now for the playoffs, man, they are a dangerous team. And a lot of people sleeping on them, especially in the Austin area. But Recon Athlete is surely rocking with Wham Nation
All right, so shout out Coach Jimmy Mitchell, Coach Keller, all the guys over there at Wham Nation. They're going to be moving on to round 3, and you know what? You're practicing on Thanksgiving morning. You're having a pretty good.
There's
football
teams
season.
that are playing on Thanksgiving Day.
Yo, that receiver out there for them, Maynard or Darian Fletch, dude's got fast too, man. Speed everywhere.
Who's playing on Thanksgiving Day?
I was listening to that Dave Campbell's podcast, and like there's I don't remember the team names, but there's like legit teams. I think it's 6-man, but that are playing like literally sense. Thanksgiving Day. That's crazy.
Yeah, Pioneer out of Sharyland, 28. Weiss Wolves 21. Shout out to King Kalunga. I owe him a steak dinner. If you're watching, John, I got you. We're gonna go to Revelry over here, close to the Paddock Studios. Right around the corner here. So I got your steak dinner, brother. Pioneer 28, Weiss 21. Like I said, Weiss Wolves just couldn't quite do enough on the offensive side of the ball to win this football game. But 0-10 to, was it 9-2?
Man, what tremendous turnaround.
Like 7 points away from being 3 rounds deep.
Yeah. Huge turnaround for the Weiss Wolves. They just had a tremendous season. And wrapping this thing up, Brenham 56, Alice 37. Brenham's going to be playing Corpus Christi Cal Allen next week. And you can go to reconathlete.com to get all of the schedules for the semi-regional championships. Well, it's semi-regional now. It's not, was it quarterfinals?
Don't you have family? Don't you have family playing for Cal Allen?
Heck yeah, man! I got the Justice McClure. I gotta shout out to Judge. We call him Judge.
Yeah, we gotta get him. We gotta get him on the pod. Talk about that option attack that got going on. Over there.
Right.
Especially now that we're losing Syntex teams. We got to keep up our high school football coverage.
Yeah, I'll shout him out. I'll hit him up. I'll see if because I know he had an injury. I'll see if he's coming back. But even if he's not playing, he can give us some insight on the Cal Allen Wildcats. They're 11-1. Brenham 10-2. The Brenham Cubs. All right, that's going to wrap us up for high school. But, of course, they got games going on today. Georgetown and Richmond Foster at 2:30. Winner gets to play Shadow Creek.
And, we're at the point, just as a football fan, like if you look, there are games going on all around you.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it be teams teams coming in from other places, even some of the smaller games. Like if you know of games around you, there's nothing else to do, man. Like during the day, like go watch some high school football, man. You're almost guaranteed to see somebody on the field that you'll end up seeing play on Saturday.
Hey, and you know what? A lot of these games are going to be on Friday. A lot of people are going to be off next Friday. You're going to be off next Friday. You're going to be full of turkey. You're going to be looking for something to do. We know it, and that's a good idea. Zach, I got this. We'll try to see if we can gather up any of the area games going on. Because we'll have some teams coming in. From the Valley or from Corpus, coming in to meet some teams from Dallas. And a lot of times, they'll play in Maynard, they'll play at different
right, and especially some
here.
Smaller schools too. Like since Austin, this is Austin area or Greater Central Texas area, whatever, has so many of those like district complexes. Teams love to use those as neutral sites. So I'm talking the field in Pflugerville, Bible, Georgetown. Exactly. I mean, there's got to be games. We can look into that for next podcast.
Yeah, I know the MAC out in Maynard, the Maynard Athletic Complex, teams like to use that a lot too. So we'll check out the schedule and we'll try to put it on reconathlete.com. We'll share it on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Recon Athlete on Twitter to find that information. Hopefully we'll get that out there to you before the weekend. All right, NFL. Real quickly, fellas, and not real quickly. Houston Texans 20, Indianapolis Colts 17. Deshaun Watson had 298 yards in the air. And Will Fuller, 140 yards for the Houston Texans. All of a sudden his hamstring's okay, but it'll probably be only okay for
that game,
that one game.
Yeah.
He'll probably be He'll probably be hurt again, but if you can get one good game out of Will Fuller,
You just need W's.
that's all you need at this point. Houston leading AFC South right now in that division. Tampa Bay at Atlanta. That's going to be Atlanta home game. Anybody interested in that? Nope. Denver at Buffalo. There's nothing.
Nope.
New York at Chicago.
Nope.
Pittsburgh at Cincinnati.
John's not here.
Shout out to Kalunga.
Shout out to the Bengals for getting the first overall pick in the draft.
They still.
You think they'll land it?
Oh yeah, they're going over.
They're going to 0-4. Cincinnati
0-4?
Bengals? 0-4. Sorry.
Man, they're just so bad.
So Pittsburgh,
They're better at being bad than Miami.
True.
Miami,
And the Jets.
Miami at Cleveland. I know we was talking trash about Cleveland last week, but they're
gonna win that game.
they won that game. So
Whoa.
They're
Well,
10.
do they?
They're 10.5 point favorite at home.
No Myles Garrett. Miami likes to win on accident.
You call them the Fitz Magic this week?
Something. I mean,
I don't think so.
I think it could be.
Okay.
I think
Do
it
we have
could
any
be.
lines on that?
Yes,
He
minus
said 10.
10.5.
Minus 10.5.
I think that's a lot of points for a Cleveland team that has not been very good without their best player. Myles Garrett was the best player on that team.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dolphins traded away Minka Fitzpatrick to Steelers, and they don't really have a secondary.
Yeah, they were trying to tank this year, but they can't even do that.
It's because of Fitzpatrick. Giving them 2 wins so far.
So, I mean,
They want to
OBJ
lose. Put Josh Rosen in.
Cleveland, they might
Yeah,
mess.
let's see who they start. Then we'll
see what
figure out who's going to win that game.
I mean, could Cleveland mess around and possibly make the playoffs? Or are they too far out?
I mean, so I
They're
think it's
4-6.
weird because
think
they
they're
could
too
mess
far out.
they could mess around and finish the season with only one more loss. I think they have the Ravens, and that could be the only games they lose on the rest of the season. Or they could mess around and lose way more games along this last stretch than they should.
Okay, so let me pull up their schedule for the Cleveland Browns. Of course, they got Miami tomorrow. They beat Pittsburgh last Thursday. They got Miami, and then they're playing Pittsburgh again on Sunday, December 1st.
You could win both of those because you already beat Pittsburgh and Miami's no good, or you could lose to Miami and start a downward spiral that probably snowballs against Pittsburgh
They've already beaten Baltimore and the Steelers in that division.
So
with Myles Garrett.
So here's
Yes.
so here's the thing. You take care of business if you're the Cleveland Browns. You take care of business against Miami tomorrow. You're going to be super motivated against Pittsburgh.
True.
Cleveland Browns are going to be super motivated. I mean, I
That
know
is
they don't
true.
have Myles Garrett, but they're going to be super motivated in that game. They're going to be at Pittsburgh. That's going to be a huge game. I'm surprised they haven't flexed that game. I mean, if you're the NFL, wouldn't you want to flex that game
What time is that game at?
It's a noon game on Sunday, December 1st.
I think they want to. Their PR.
They're trying to-
Their PR team's like, no, put it at.
They're
noon.
trying. They're trying to hide that game.
Yeah.
So Miami, Pittsburgh. We're talking about Cleveland Browns here.
Pouncey will be
They're-
back for that game, right?
They're 4-6, I think so.
Two
Two
games.
So they're 4-6. So they win against Miami. They all of a sudden they're 5-6. They come out, go to Pittsburgh. They're super motivated. They win. All of a sudden they're 6-6. All right. Let's just say for grins. Just for grins. Then they got Cincinnati, Arizona, Baltimore, Cincinnati. Last 4 games.
They're only going to lose one.
They could mess around and you can mess around and be in the playoffs. You never know. Just saying. Baker Mayfield is that type of player. He likes being the underdog.
Well, he is the underdog right now.
Zach, anything on that?
No, they stink.
All right. Carolina at New Orleans. Line?
-10, New Orleans.
Minus
Carolina, talk about downward spirals.
10. Man. Dude, and I tried to use Kyle Allen a couple weeks ago, and he had like the worst game ever.
It's like he balled for 2 weeks and then.
Yeah. Oakland.
Waited till they made sure they weren't going to replace him with Cam Newton. And
He's like, is Cam gone? He is? Oh, okay. Let me
Yeah.
show you who
I can
am.
chill out now? All right.
All right, now I'm going to be really bad. Oakland at New York. The Jets could win this game.
Oakland -3.
That's what I'm saying. I don't even know what the line was, but I think the Jets can win this game. They can beat Oakland.
I think Oakland's good.
I think so too, but I think that this is one of those games where Oakland's going to New York. I think this is this is like almost like when Dallas went to the Jets, and they were just kind of like almost riding off that this was going to be a
This
win.
is the game that gets Derek Carr to Dallas.
I don't know about that.
It's not going to happen, but I've
Right.
been a big proponent of Derek Carr to Dallas.
Why?
I don't know. I think he would fit really well. He's a submissive, average quarterback, and that's just about all that Jerry
Dallas's-
Jones has ever wanted in
That's
life.
Dallas's MO. That is true.
Seattle at Philadelphia.
Philly -1.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
a coin flip.
Yeah,
Coin flip. I got Seattle in that game.
true.
Russ Wilson.
I'll take Seattle +1. Yeah, all day.
I think it'll be
Zach?
a fun game to watch. I think both those two quarterbacks are. Carson Wentz is fun to watch. Everyone talks about how fun to watch, like Kyler Murray is and Russell Wilson and all that. Like, I think Carson Wentz is fun to watch because sometimes he's like does really good and sometimes he sucks really bad, and that's like fun to watch because Eagles fans like swear by him.
Dramatic.
And the NFL got 9 games at noon tomorrow. Detroit at Washington, the 9th game to be played at noon
skip that.
o'clock.
Detroit -3.
Then there's only 2 games in the afternoon.
Shout out Jeff Driscoll.
Jacksonville at Tennessee that nobody's going to watch.
Tennessee -3.5.
And then the big game, Dallas at New England.
New England -6.
Do the Cowboys have a chance to win this football game? They have a chance.
Of course, they have a chance.
If they win
playing.
this game, the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl, according to everybody.
Okay, I like how you slowly whispered the end of that sentence, according to everybody.
Yeah. All right. According to everybody.
So the way I see this game breaking down is if New England's offensive line is garbage. If Quinn and DeMarcus Lawrence or D-Law rather can get after Tom Brady and Tom Brady can hold the ball for 5 seconds, they'll have a
Right.
chance. But that's not what Bill Belichick is going to do with Tom Brady. I see a lot of screens. I see a lot of passes over the middle with quick slants, and they're going to try to run the ball as much as they can. I do not see Tom Brady holding this ball long at all.
I mean, speaking of running the ball, I mean, that's something that the Cowboys haven't been doing a very good job of either. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a lot on Dak Prescott's plate. And this is really when we've seen him do bad.
He said,
Yes.
he's had 400 yards the past 2 games. Is he going to do it again? I don't know.
Man, see, that's the thing. Like, Dak Prescott isn't the guy that we want to be, like, just putting everything on.
Right.
You know, like, he needs to be able to hand the ball
Because
off.
it's going to get to a point where they're going to start abandoning the run game,
Right.
where they're
And you can't
going to
do that.
lose faith into it. And at least in these games that he's done a good job, they've tried to establish the running game to a point where if you're the other team, you have to be weary of it. But if you have no running game coming into the game, then you're like, all right, Dak, what's up?
Now I think where Dallas needs to have the biggest impact is it's going to be the running game, but it has to be with Dak's legs. There needs to be RPOs. They need to get Tavon Austin in the mix with jet sweeps across the middle to open up the middle of that field to let Dak just run up. Because when they do spread out the field with Dallas, Dak Prescott does have passing lanes, and I'm pretty sure they may spy every now and then, but take the Lamar Jackson approach to the New England Patriots and use your feet. I'm not saying run high school option all day long, but you may want to incorporate it once or twice to kind of get on the edge and beat the Patriots on the edge of the field with the running game.
All right, so just real quickly, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to go down these wins and losses for the Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott's rushing yards.
Okay.
When they beat the Giants, he had 53 yards, 35-17, but they didn't really need to run the ball. It was the Giants at the beginning of the game. They beat the Redskins, he had 111. They beat the Dolphins, they had 125. They lost to the New Orleans Saints, he had 35 yards. They lost to Green Bay, he had 62. They lost to the Jets, he had 105. Okay, good game. They beat Philadelphia, he had 111. They beat the Giants, this time he had 139. They lost to the Vikings, he had 47. They beat Detroit, he had 45. Now, what that's telling me is against the bad teams, Dak Prescott can win. He can win you the football game
Because they're bad team.
because they're bad teams. If they're a good team, you need
needs the
Zeke
help.
Elliott. You need Zeke Elliott. You have to have Zeke Elliott part of this game plan. He has to run the football against this New England defense, or else you're just going to get completely shut out. And Bill Belichick, he's going to take Zeke Elliott away from the Cowboys, and he's going to force Dak Prescott to win this football game for the Cowboys. And if that's the case, I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Cowboys winning this football game.
The only thing that I can kind of contribute to where like Zeke's not performing, Tony Pollard had a great game last week. And I think with the combination
True.
of Pollard and Zeke, if you have overall rushing yards, that can complement each other from the quarterback and from the running back position. Doesn't matter who your name is on the back of your jersey. I think that combination will propel you with a W over the New England Patriots if you can have at least 150 total rushing yards by running back, 70 to 80 yards rushing with your quarterback. But you got to score touchdowns in the red zone to make that happen.
Zach?
I think it's like whenever you're talking to somebody that you know you're better than, you're like, yo, I could beat you up with one hand tied behind my back. Mm-hmm. When Dak has Ezekiel Elliott tied behind his back and he plays a bad team that he knows he can beat, it doesn't matter. But I mean, against these good teams, he needs both hands or else he's not going to beat you.
If Dallas could play at full potential at every level of the game, they could be an elite team. They just don't show up cumulatively, and that's the problem that we're seeing this year.
Yeah, and Leighton Vander Esch might not be playing, and he's not playing.
Garbage. Yeah, he's out.
And it doesn't really matter. I mean, they're talking about
He stinks. Y'all should have got Blake Martinez.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm glad y'all got into this. I mean, shout out to Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, dude's doing his thing in the NFL. But I just, as far as the run game goes, you just have to run right at that dude. And those if those guards get on him or that center gets on him, he can't get off the block. He can't make the tackle. Now, if they're trying to run some kind of jet sweep or something like that, he'll go out there and he can cover backs out of the backfield. He do a great job. But as far as stopping the run, not so much. I think
even get your tight ends going at him too. He struggled with Rudolph in the Vikings game.
Yep.
I mean, if people that need to be talking about Cowboys running backs, the one to talk about is Jalen Smith. It's not Vander Esch.
Yeah, Jalen Smith.
Vander Esch was just along for the ride last year.
Yeah, Jalen Smith is the best linebacker on. I mean, nobody talks about it.
They just like Leighton Vander Esch.
Why?
Because he has a neck pad, and it looks cool.
I mean, I don't get it. They talk about Sean Lee. They talk about Leighton Vander Esch. Nobody talks about the best linebacker on that team, Jalen Smith. He's the best linebacker. Why doesn't anybody talk about him? That's just it's terrible. Green Bay at San Francisco, 7:20 p.m. kickoff Sunday night. This game got flexed, I think, either the last week or the week before.
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. So Green Bay at San Francisco, huge game. Levi Stadium, Santa Clara, California.
Niners -3.
You're going to give Aaron Rodgers some good weather.
I'm taking
give Aaron Rodgers some good weather, man. Oh man,
I'm taking A-Rod +3. Good weather.
I don't know who A-Rod is, but that's his Indian cousin.
A-Rod, his Indian cousin. Well, you would know with that hairdo.
But I mean, Aaron Rodgers in the good weather, man, and I think Devontae Adams being out was really good for developing the depth of his receiver core. Wow. So I mean, now that he's back, I mean, the defense playing in good weather too, man. I mean, but I will say what Green Bay has struggled with in the games that they've lost badly have been a running game.
Yeah, and
that's what San Francisco is going to bring at you is a running game. So if this defense has figured out how to stop a run and keep it from having to have Aaron Rodgers outscore you, I think it's over. But I mean, if the defense is not going to be able to stop the run and Aaron Rodgers is going to have to go score for score with this team, I think it's a little bit tougher.
Paul?
I'm just looking forward to a dandy on Sunday night, so we'll see how it plays out. But I'm taking A-Rod. I'm taking Aaron Rodgers +3.
A-Rod.
Is this the game that Jimmy Garoppolo needs to be talked about as a legitimate quarterback?
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, he had a chance a couple weeks ago when they played Seattle, and when it came down to it, he couldn't get it done against Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, elite quarterback.
Because you almost forget that Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback of this team. Because all you talk about is the defense, and you talk about Joey Bosa or Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa.
Nick Bosa.
All you talk about is Nick Bosa in this running game. You don't even. No one talks about Jimmy Garoppolo ever, other than when they take the picture for the team program.
Yeah, and I think it's something crazy.
He needs a big time win like this.
Yeah, I think he's only lost 2 games, right, that he started in his career.
This one and last year.
Yeah,
he started like the second half of last year.
Yeah, so I mean, he's only lost 2 games, but nobody really talks about Jimmy Grapes. But I don't know. I mean,
he reminds me of a Italian Dak Prescott. Because that's what he does. He manages the game good enough. He's got the good
exactly.
looks.
He's Jimmy G. Jimmy good enough. That's what he is.
Jimmy, yeah. And he's on TMZ. I mean, that's how I first heard about him.
Yeah,
outside of New England.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got the defense, like you said, and he's got the run game with Coleman and Breida and who else, like Mostert and some whoever else that they put it back there. So he's got George Kittle. I mean, when you have especially when you have a guy like Kittle, a
Is he
tight end.
back? Is he back?
Well, I don't know if he's back, but I'm just saying when you have a guy like when he's healthy, when you have a guy like that, you can just kind of look for your tight end. I mean that helps you a lot, in the long run.
But that lets me know he's not an elite quarterback yet because he's relying on a safety blanket with that tight end. If he's pushing the ball down the field with those speedsters out there with Goodman, I mean that's when the guy can throw the ball deep and be proficient.
It's Jimmy, get out of the way and let us run the ball.
Pretty much.
That's what it is.
Monday night, Baltimore at Los Angeles, Ravens, and these Rams. I mean, what happened to Los Angeles Rams, yo? I mean, they're still 6-4, but I mean, they're not.
Is it more on Sean McVay or more on Jared Goff, or are they not mutually exclusive or whatever?
I think people found out McVay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Paul?
I mean, I said it earlier in the year when we were talking about how the Rams were underperforming, and I think everybody just figured out from Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl how to shut down this offense. And Goff has not performed as well, and Gurley's they're putting him on a pitch count a lot of the year, and I don't really know why, but they are. And their defense is not stopping people. They had to really bring in Jalen Ramsey to shore up that secondary, and they're doing a better job at it. But Lamar Jackson and co. this weekend -3 favorite this weekend at LA. Is that the Coliseum? Is that where they're playing?
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's going to wrap up.
Jared Goff should go be the backup in Green Bay. I think he would do it.
Jared Goff looks like a golf pro in a Hill Country Club.
That's true. I'm actually going to play Grit Hills Country Club on Tuesday. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Griner, Reed. I'll see y'all on Tuesday.
Shout out to A-Raj.
Kansas City, Minnesota, Arizona, and Los Angeles Chargers all on a bye this week. All right, so let's wrap this thing up. We'll remind everybody about the semi-regional matchups next week. Lake Travis versus Weslaco. Westlake versus Weslaco East. Those games are going to be Friday at San Antonio's Alamo Stadium. The Lake Travis game at 1. Westlake game at 7. And let's see. Brenham versus Corpus Christi Calallen. Saturday at 8 o'clock at Alamo Dome. And Bremont versus Flatonia. 7 o'clock Friday at Rockdale's Tiger Stadium. We're still going to wait on the winner of Cedar Park and Friendswood to see who's going to play the Manor Mustangs. All right, so we're going to wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts about episode 28 there, Paul Rodriguez?
No, not really, but I'm just happy to see you bright, sunshine faces Saturday morning.
Zach Lucero.
No, I have to poop.
All right. Shout out to everybody out there listening, and we'll catch you on Wednesday.